Homage to the fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to the wisdom warrior Manjushri. Homage to all the lineage masters. The supreme subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate bodhicitta. We have already completed 40 sessions on the Platform Sutra. Today is the final conclusion. I once mentioned whether we could have an exam when the sessions were finished. But thinking about it today, there is no need to rush or feel anxious. We can decide on a suitable time later. Regarding the content of the Platform Sutra and its koans, we should have a selective voluntary competition. Prizes can be awarded at that time. As for the specifics, let the relevant teachers give it some more thought. It is not urgent for now. Perhaps at the end of the year or some other time, we can set aside some time for those who wish to participate. Those who are familiar with the koans and wish to take the oral test, we may hold such an event. I am just reiterating what was said before. Now, let us begin the final session on the Platform Sutra. In the second year of Chana, cyclical Guaichou year, on the third day of the 8th month, the Master, after finishing his meal at Huineng Temple, addressed his disciples, "Sit down in your respective order. I am now going to bid you farewell." A few days prior, in the 7th month, the Master had already told everyone, "I will leave this world in the 8th month. The pagoda at Huineng Temple will soon be finished." That was what he said then. The second year of Shantian, the era name Kaiyuan, usually refers to Emperor Xuanzong of Tang. Here it says the second year of Shantian, which was the second year of his reign. At the start, his era was called Shantian, which was later changed to Kaiyuan. Regardless, it was on the third day of the 8th month of that second year, at Guowen Temple in Jinzhou, which the emperor had specially built for him. After receiving the meal offering, he spoke to all his disciples. He told them to each sit according to their seniority. In your respective order means to sit in your designated places. Then he began his farewell, as he was about to depart from this world. Fahai then said, "Master, what teaching will you leave behind, so that the deluded of later generations may see their Buddha nature?" At that moment, Master Fahai remained very composed. For anyone else, at such a critical moment, their heart would be filled with anxiety. Knowing that their teacher was about to leave soon, some might weep or plead for him to stay. But Fahai did not do that. He knew that everything in this world must eventually pass away. When the time comes, whether for the master or the disciples, the mood is never easy. But it is inevitable. No one can force a stay. At this point he raised some of the most vital questions. "Master, as you leave this world, you are free and at ease, so it is no matter for you. But for the people of the future, for the countless deluded sentient beings, what teaching will you leave to help them truly realize their mind and see their Buddha nature?" He petitioned for a final profound instruction. The Master said, "Listen attentively. For the deluded of later generations, to recognize sentient beings is to recognize Buddha nature. Without recognizing sentient beings, one would seek the Buddha for countless eons and never encounter him." The Sixth Patriarch said, "You must listen carefully. For the deluded sentient beings of the future, if they recognize their own mind as having the Tathagata Garbha, no different from the Buddha, then that is precisely recognizing Buddha nature. To know yourself, that sentient beings are Buddhas, is what we call Buddha nature. If you do not recognize that sentient beings inherently possess Buddha nature, if you fail to understand this truth, then no matter how hard you search for 10,000 eons, you will never find the Buddha." Many principles in the Chan tradition correspond to what we say in Vajrayana, that one can attain Buddhahood in this very life. When stated directly, many feel the Tibetan tradition sounds too unreasonable. Even some monks in the Han Buddhist tradition might wonder, how is it possible to attain Buddhahood in a single lifetime, as you say? In the past, across various Koenda sessions, I have directly or indirectly cited many Chan sources, including the Zongjing Lu and various Chan koans. I explained it through the principles they themselves acknowledge, because if they do not recognize the authority, explaining it solely through Vajrayana Tantras or lineage masters presents certain difficulties. But since they claim to be practitioners of Chan, explaining it through Chan koans makes them realize, So this principle, attaining Buddhahood in this very life by awakening to one's nature, is not unique to the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. The sutra tradition already contains this wisdom. I now teach you to recognize the sentient beings within your own mind and to awaken to the Buddha nature within your own mind. If you wish to see the Buddha, you need only recognize sentient beings. It is sentient beings who are deluded about the Buddha. It is not the Buddha who is deluded about sentient beings. Today I teach you to recognize your own mind. Seeing your own mind is precisely seeing the Buddha. The mind of sentient beings and the Buddha within the mind are identical. If we wish to see the Buddha in this very life, we must recognize that the mind of sentient beings is itself the Buddha. In this way, sentient beings will not lose their way, otherwise they are already lost to the Buddha. It is not that the Buddha or others have abandoned or deluded us. In fact, we sentient beings have lost sight of our own Buddha nature. We have failed to recognize our own inherent Buddha nature. Because of this, we believe the Buddha is something far away from us, thinking that the Buddha is something unattainable. This is a misconception. It is not reality. It is not that the Buddha has abandoned us or deluded us. Neither have others or other beings deluded us. We are deluded simply because we have failed to recognize our own mind. When one's nature is realized, sentient beings are Buddhas. When one's nature is deluded, the Buddha is a sentient being. When one's nature is impartial, sentient beings are Buddhas. When one's nature is perverted, the Buddha is a sentient being. If we have realized our own nature, then sentient beings are indeed Buddhas. Whether it is you or I, when we recognize our nature, we are Buddhas. If we do not recognize our nature and remain deluded, then the Buddha appears as a sentient being. Within our dualistic and confused perception, the Buddha is seen as a sentient being. Just as when the non-Buddhist Brahmins saw Shakyamuni Buddha, they did not see his marks of excellence, nor did they feel any faith in him. Though the Buddha was endowed with all auspicious marks, they could not see them, nor could they give rise to faith. Therefore, when our nature is pure, everything within our mental state is Buddha. Bodhisattvas see bodhisattvas, Buddhas see Buddhas, but ordinary beings only see ordinary beings. This is the reason. Our nature is inherently impartial. Sentient beings are actually Buddhas. If we fail to realize that our nature is fundamentally impartial and instead allow dualistic, perverted thoughts to arise, then the Buddha is a sentient being. If your minds are perverted and crooked, then the Buddha is among sentient beings. If for one moment you are impartial and straightforward, you are a Buddha. If you fail to realize the true nature of your mind and persist in distorted and perverted dualistic thoughts, then the Buddha remains among sentient beings, appearing just as we do. His qualities of abandonment and realization remain hidden and unmanifest. But if for one single moment we truly realize this impartial mind, then sentient beings become Buddhas. They are no different from the Buddha. This is a very high level of realization, indeed, in our Vajrayana tradition, especially if you study the 7 treasuries or the 9 Tikyabshai, which represent the highest levels of practice, the mind of sentient beings, as it is, without needing to abandon anything, is directly the Buddha. Thus, apart from our own mind, there is no other Buddha to be found. Within my own mind there is a Buddha. My own Buddha is the true Buddha. If one did not have the Buddha mind within, where could one seek the true Buddha? Our own mind is the Buddha, and our own Buddha is the true Buddha. If we do not recognize our own mind as the Buddha, where else could we possibly find a real Buddha? When the Buddha observes with wisdom that encompasses the cosmos of 1,000,000,000 worlds, the Buddha is not found anywhere else. With my Buddha eye, I see that within the bodies of all sentient beings, the Tathagata Garbha remains serene. I teach the Dharma to manifest it. The Buddha said, using the Buddha's wisdom of things as they are, and wisdom of things in their multiplicity, when I look upon the bodies of all sentient beings, I see that the Tathagata Garbha, the Buddha store, is already present. It is through teaching the Dharma that it manifests. My Buddha nature is like this, and your Buddha nature is like this. It is just that we sentient beings are truly pitiable for not understanding this truth. Instead, we think of ourselves as mere sentient beings and the Buddha as something lofty. Thus, the definitive principles of Chan and the teachings of Vajrayana are not understood by everyone, save for a few individuals. Your own mind is the Buddha, have no more doubts. Nothing exists outside of it. All the myriad dharmas are born from the original mind. As the sutra says, when the mind arises, all kinds of phenomena arise. When the mind ceases, all kinds of phenomena cease. You should know that your own mind is the Buddha. There is no need to harbor so many doubts. Outside of this mind, nothing can be established. Fundamentally, not a single thing exists. Where can dust alight, as we discussed earlier? Since nothing truly exists in external objects, what is there to disturb you or cause you worry? There is nothing. When the true essence of the mind is realized, the Buddha is also like this. The difference between the Buddha and sentient beings is just one thing: delusion versus realization. Realization is Buddha, delusion is sentient being. Pitiable sentient beings cling to what does not fundamentally exist. To speak more profoundly, as in the Yogacara school, all phenomena are created by our collective karma and our minds. Once consciousness ceases to exist, the entire universe, including our own bodies and homes, also ceases to exist. Therefore, have no doubt, nothing can be established apart from our mind. The myriad phenomena arise from our mind. This is not just mere talk. In definitive scriptures such as the Tathagatagarbha Sutra, it is stated exactly this way: all kinds of dharmas arise within our mind, and when the mind ceases, they naturally cease as well. I haven't found the exact source for this specific quote, but generally, many Yogacara treatises and scriptures like the Tathagatagarbha Sutra contain content very similar to this. The exact wording might not be found as a scriptural proof in a specific sutra, but a master like the Sixth Patriarch would not speak untruths when near death. Mippham Rinpoche said the Sixth Patriarch was a great bodhisattva who previously spoke little. Now that he is about to leave this world, he certainly would not lie. So today, whoever wishes to establish a connection with me can do so. Mippham Rinpoche also spoke in this way. So here, when the Sixth Patriarch was giving his final teachings, he cited this scriptural proof: our mind creates all phenomena. If the mind ceases, all phenomena cease. In truth, this world is our mind. With this mind, the world manifests before you. Once our mind ceases, all phenomena of this world will also cease. If my mind and karmic energy were to arise in another place, for example, if when I was human, I was deeply attached to precious gems and houses, in my eyes, the whole world, the gems and the flowers, was judged by a certain taste. This is good, that is bad. If I left this world and my human mind turned into the mind of an animal, then my previous values would completely vanish. At that point, what I would value most is the grass I eat and the water I drink. Beyond that, no matter how good the drink's hair or teeth, an animal generally lacks those tastes and concepts. So all minds in our world actually rely on the mind to create that world. Whether it is good or bad, existent or non-existent, it is all like this. I shall leave you one gatha to bid you farewell, entitled the Gatha on the True Buddha of One's Own Nature. If those of future generations understand its meaning, they will see their own original mind and attain Buddhahood. Today I leave a gatha with you as my parting instruction. The name of this teaching is the Gatha on the True Buddha of One's Own Nature. Original nature refers to the true original face of our own mind. This mind is the true Buddha, that is the essence of the Gatha. From the title itself, we can sense the profound words to follow. In the context of the Tantric teachings, this is the direct pointing to the nature of mind. It is a pith instruction to recognize that our mind is inherently Buddha. In the Dzogchen tradition, the great master Garab Dorje left a final teaching at the time of his departure known as hitting the essence in 3 words. Similarly, Padmasambhava, Vimalamitra, Jaina Sutra, and many other great masters would leave behind incredibly profound teachings upon their passing. Even the omniscient Longchenpa left deep instructions for future generations at the end of his life. These are found in works like the Lama Yangtig and in the brief biography of the omniscient Longchenpa, which I translated. If people of later generations realize the meaning of this Gatha, they will see the original face of their own mind and achieve realization. Today, many years after the Sixth Patriarch entered Parinirvana, we who are gathered here are very fortunate. He left us this Gatha, and we have the chance to study it together. Though we did not meet him in person, as he says later, if we act according to its meaning, it is the same as being by his side. The original nature of suchness is the true Buddha, while deviant views and the 3 poisons are the demon king. When deluded by deviance, the demon is in the house. The original nature of suchness means truly recognizing the original face of our mind. This is the true Buddha. But if we harbor deviant thoughts and the 3 poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance, that is the real demon king. When compassion and faith arise in your heart, for example, when you are visualizing Padmasambhava or your guru, those mental states are all Buddha. But when greed, anger, or delusion arise in your stream of being, the demon is right there in your heart, not somewhere outside. As it is said in the biography of Milarepa, true demons are internal. Many people say, I'm scared to walk at night, I'm afraid of dogs, I'm afraid of demons. Actually, external things aren't that frightening. It is the internal demons of greed, anger, and ignorance that are terrifying. When you are lost in deviance and delusion, and the three poisons are flaring up strongly, at that moment the demon is dwelling right in the house of your heart. Afflictions are arising, and the demon is already within you. But if you give rise to right view, the view of the middle way, or the right view of Mahayana bodhicitta, at that moment the Buddha is in the hall of your heart. This is something we frequently emphasize in the tantric teachings. I've mentioned before, when we are thinking of Padmasambhava, that very thought is actually the true Padmasambhava. When I am reciting the mantra of Padmasambhava, the sound of that mantra is itself the true Padmasambhava. We have discussed this when teaching about mantras and right view. Conversely, if I am speaking on behalf of a demon, causing others to have deviant views or say negative things, then at that moment the demon is within your body, speaking and acting through you. Thus, both the demon and the Buddha exist within each one of us. When deviant views and the three poisons arise from within our nature, the demon king comes to dwell in the house. When right view spontaneously clears the mind of the three poisons, our original nature is fundamentally pure. If greed, anger, and ignorance arise, the demon king has emerged and entered the house of your heart. He arrives aggressively from afar and makes himself at home in your mind, pitching his tent as if he owns the place. But if you generate right view and clear away those poisons, the former demon becomes the Buddha, truly and without doubt. We can see here that this isn't exactly the Dzogchen view. In the Dzogchen view, as the Sixth Patriarch suggested earlier, affliction is itself Bodhi, the nature of the three poisons is Buddha. But here it is more like the outer tantras or Mahayoga. When greed, anger, and ignorance arrive, the demon king comes from afar. When they are removed, the demon king is transformed. When we taught the three vows, we spoke of various tantric approaches such as abandonment, transformation, and taking on to the path. This approach here is equivalent to abandonment or transformation. It isn't a direct recognition of the nature of mind, where one recognizes the very essence of affliction as the Buddha. He says that without recognition, it is the demon king. He describes a process of conversion or change. This indicates it's not the ultimate tantric perspective. While the Platform Sutra shares similarities with the tantric teachings, there are also differences. When comparing Chan to the Dzogchen view of Vajrayana, we should note differences in lineage, history, and the way the nature of mind is pointed out, such as whether empowerments or preliminary practices are required. Some say they are identical, but that isn't quite the case. Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. These three bodies are fundamentally one. If one can see them within one's own nature, Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, the three bodies. The final chapter of the Ornament of Clear Realization also explains that these three bodies are fundamentally one essence. The intent of Tibetan Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism is perfectly aligned here. A few masters in the Han tradition have argued that the three bodies are distinct or separate entities. Such a claim is actually untenable. If we can see these three bodies within our own nature, that is the true cause of Buddha. In the Dzogchen teachings, the essence of the mind is the Dharmakaya, its luminosity is the Sambhogakaya, and the unity of luminosity and emptiness is the Nirmanakaya. This is found in the pith instructions of Padmasambhava and in the Dzogchen teachings of His Holiness Jigme Phuntok Rinpoche. When you recognize the mind, you find all three bodies are already complete. That is the cause of Buddhahood, the cause of Bodhi. The Chan tradition also speaks this way, though perhaps not as deeply. Tantrayana is more direct, pointing it out to you in a single stroke. Pure nature arises originally from the Nirmanakaya. Pure nature is always within the Nirmanakaya. Nature leads the Nirmanakaya to walk the right path. The Nirmanakaya originally arises from within the pure nature, and within the pure nature, various Nirmanakayas manifest constantly. Whether as the supreme Nirmanakaya or in other forms, it manifests from the pure essence in all sorts of appearances to liberate infinite sentient beings and lead them on the right path. It was so in the past and will remain so in the future. Until sentient beings are exhausted, the activity of the Nirmanakaya will never come to an end, just as taught in Entering the Middle Way and the Ornament of Clear Realization. Sentient beings are boundless, so the Buddha's incarnations are boundless. Furthermore, this is achieved in a way that is permanent, spontaneous, and all-pervading to benefit all beings. Lustful nature is itself the cause of pure nature. Without lust, it is the body of pure nature. Within our nature, we detach from the 5 desires. Here, it speaks of what we call misconduct or lust. The essence of lust is fundamentally the cause of the original nature of the pure Dharma Dhatu. We often say that desire is actually the wisdom of discernment, which is inseparable from wisdom itself. When we rely on remedies to eliminate lust and desire, that desire is revealed as a manifestation of the pure body. Earlier, the essence of affliction being empty was like the Dharmakaya. Clearing it away is like the Sambhogakaya. Within our nature, we manifest detachment in this world. For instance, the 5 sensory desires, form, sound, scent, taste, and touch, fundamentally do not exist and are detached from the essence. We can call this the Nirmanakaya. At the instant of seeing one's nature, the 3 bodies are truly realized. No one else interprets it this way, but I believe it can be understood so. Earlier was an analogy for the 3 bodies. Here, desire is addressed specifically. Regarding this method of direct pointing, the essence of desire is Buddha nature. For example, the Sutra of the Non-Arising of All Dharmas states, the actual nature of lust is the very nature of Buddha Dharma. The actual nature of Buddha Dharma is also the nature of lust. I believe this scriptural authority is very important. Nowadays, some people claim that the so-called union in Vajrayana is not true Buddhism, but belongs to Shaktism. Such views exist. However, that is simply not the case. The actual nature of lust is in fact the nature of Buddha Dharma. Buddha Dharma here refers to the nature of the Buddha's wisdom. The actual nature of lust is the nature of Buddha's wisdom, and the nature of Buddha Dharma is also the nature of lust. If you can interpret and understand this, then in the world there is no so-called impure lust. This was taught by the Buddha in the Sutra tradition, in the Sutra of the Non-Arising of All Dharmas. So regarding lust, many people today have strong desires, whether through movies, television, or the way they speak. The world is full of desires of the desire realm, but if one does not realize the essence of desire as the nature of Dharma and wisdom, it will be quite difficult for us to make progress in our practice. Therefore, in authentic Vajrayana and Chan, greed, anger, and ignorance, especially the very essence of greed, are recognized as wisdom. This is taught not only in Vajrayana, but also in the Chan tradition. At the moment of seeing our nature, all is true. Within one's own nature, the essence of lust is also pure. Thus, in the sutra tradition of the Platform Sutra, this gatha on transforming desire into the path is very significant. For many teachers and lay practitioners here, I sometimes give many teachings, but for various reasons you might miss the key points, despite the extensive references I provide. There are critical issues that people today need to pay attention to. Since I interact with many people, students, teachers, and so on, for some of my answers, I'm less certain, but for others, I am very confident. These are based on having consulted many sutras and commentaries. Yet some Buddhists associated with me still cannot answer these questions. I find it a bit concerning. If I can answer them, you certainly should too. It would be better to develop more important insights on this basis. But some can't even repeat what I've said. Perhaps they underestimate me. They might think, the Khenpo just talks all day, my wisdom surpasses his. But when they actually have to face real-world problems, using my old sword might come in handy and save them from sacrifice. In this life, if you encounter the sudden teaching and suddenly awaken to your nature, you see the world-honored one. If you seek to become a Buddha through outward practice, if in this life you encounter the sudden teaching of the Sixth Patriarch and suddenly awaken to the original face of your own mind nature, then you have truly seen the Buddha, you have seen the Yidam, you have seen the true nature of the mind. This is the sudden teaching. In Vajrayana too, it ultimately boils down to working on one's own mind, not looking outward. Although there are external rituals and methods to seek, these are actually just preliminary practices for those of lesser capacity. The most supreme practice is to work directly on the mind. If you do not do this, and instead seek a Buddha through external forms and sounds, then by what means or through what path will you ever find the true Buddha? If you cannot find it within your own mind, no matter how much time you spend, it's hard to truly become a Buddha. Thus, when we practice, for example, Guru Yoga, it is actually done within one's own mind. We practice with devotion, purity, and joy toward the Guru. The same applies to the purification practice of Vajrasattva. The most supreme way is to realize that your own mind is Vajrasattva. This kind of practice is the most effective. Of course, if we haven't reached that level yet, we can follow the Kriya, Charya, or Sutra traditions. In the Sutra tradition, the Buddha is merely visualized in front. Beyond that, there isn't the practice of merging the Buddha with one's mind. Such practices aren't found there. For instance, in Theravada Buddhism, in any temple you visit, you see a statue of the Buddha. Other than that, you hardly see other bodhisattvas or dharma protectors. In every temple there is a Buddha statue, and that's essentially it. Their rituals also lack the element of recognizing the mind's nature. But when we study the definitive sutras of Shakyamuni Buddha, the second and third turnings, we realize, oh, the Buddha was pointing not to an external form, but to the inner Buddha. The true inner Buddha is the reality. That's what is being said here. If you can see the truth within your own mind, that truth is the cause for becoming a Buddha. Without seeing your own nature, seeking the Buddha outside, such a mind is always one of great delusion. If you can see the true Buddha within your own mind, that is the authentic cause for attaining Buddhahood. The most profound point in Vajrayana is recognizing the nature of mind. In Chan too, one observes the mind's nature. One begins by observing the origins and movements of thoughts, and gradually recognizes the mind's nature. This is the highest practice. Of course, when we start, we haven't even established right view on causality. At that stage, if someone tells you your mind is Buddha, many doubts and distractions will arise. This is understandable, but once you reach a certain level of realization, you see that seeking within is far better than seeking outside. As Mipham Rinpoche said, seeking 100 external methods is not as wondrous as seeking the single mind within. Observing the mind is the most sublime path. Inner seeking is vital. Once the inner mind is settled, practice becomes easy. If you ignore your own mind and search for a Buddha externally, then your mindset is that of a greatly deluded person, a total fool, because the Buddha resides within our own mind. Seeking an external Buddha for help is fraught with difficulty. As Chan Master Jiaozhou once said, a golden Buddha cannot cross a furnace, a wooden Buddha cannot cross a fire, a clay Buddha cannot cross water. The true Buddha sits within. He was saying that although there are statues made of gold, wood, or clay, their true purpose is simply to awaken the real Buddha in our hearts. That is the goal of creating these external forms. A golden statue may look very majestic, but once it's made, it cannot withstand the heat of a great furnace. Whether made of sandalwood or any other wood, a wooden Buddha cannot survive fire. A clay Buddha cannot even cross a river. It would dissolve. It cannot even save itself, let alone anyone else. So when we say Buddha bless me, if we mean just an external statue, that is very problematic, because the statue itself is a conditioned phenomenon. Does this mean they cannot liberate us? Not at all. The union of emptiness and luminosity, of the relative and absolute, is inconceivable. By praying to the Buddha, we can indeed overcome difficulties, but how does it work? We use the external form to awaken the true Buddha within us. The true Buddha exists within the heart of every sentient being. That is the real Buddha. We must recognize, make offerings to, and pray to that inner Buddha. This is the highest level of Buddhist understanding. It is the ultimate thought of both Chan and Vajrayana. Some who don't understand causality or deep truth simply slander, clay and gold Buddhas are useless. That view is certainly incorrect. Though they are conditioned things, they possess their own power. In terms of conventional reality, this cannot be denied. So during our study and analysis, we must distinguish between contexts. In one context, we ask what the true Buddha is. In another, we see how a created statue affects us through interdependence. We must understand such principles. Otherwise, if we always seek externally, well, from the unique perspective established by Chan, it says anyone who doesn't seek within is a total fool. When Longchenpa wrote the Seven Treasuries, he often said something similar. He sometimes used animal metaphors for those caught in conceptual thoughts. This is the writing style of the great masters, an expression of their realization. When a Chan master achieves realization through his own pith instructions, he feels that nothing else is as supreme. Vajrayana masters do the same when they realize the truth of their path. It is like this for everyone. When you have immense confidence in a certain product, you feel that nothing else works. That is a natural phenomenon. I have left the sudden teaching here for you today. To save the world, you must practice it yourselves. I tell you, future practitioners, he said that the sudden teaching is now left for all of you. It is a supreme medicine that can truly save people in this world. But a reminder is necessary. Whether it's the sudden teaching or any other dharma, you must start from yourself. You must practice. First, study, then practice. If you don't practice, no matter how supreme the teaching, it cannot help. It is like having the moon in the sky, but if your water container is covered or the water is muddy, the moon's reflection cannot appear. So to you and to all future practitioners, if you do not practice accordingly, then you are drifting away, meaning your human life is being wasted for nothing. You should practice very diligently. In some of Mippham Rinpoche's teachings, he too urges everyone repeatedly with palms joined to practice these instructions. Otherwise, attaining a human life has little meaning. These statements are very similar. I hope you can memorize these instructions of the great masters. This gatha left by the great master Huineng upon his passing. If you don't grasp its meaning at first, then look at it slowly again and again. Though the words are few, one doesn't need many words to truly benefit. Even a single gatha or a single sentence can guide you for this life and the next. Therefore, we should not treat the teachings we encounter as mere weeds by the roadside. It is not right to let them pass like fleeting clouds once we have seen them. When you come across such treasures, you should learn to pick them up. Having spoken these verses, the Master told them, "May you all dwell in peace. After my passing, do not follow the worldly custom of weeping and mourning, nor receive condolences. To wear mourning clothes is not to be my disciple, nor is it the right dharma." After leaving these final teachings, he spoke to his disciples. He told them to live well, saying, "After I pass away and enter parinirvana, you must not act like worldly people. Don't start wailing and shedding tears, with your nose and eyes streaming, wiping yourselves with your sleeves or tissues, crying on and on, until your eyes are so swollen you can't see the road. Don't do that. Whether it is the passing of a guru or a loved one, this worldly drama of joys, sorrows, meetings and partings, we have seen much of it before and will see it again. Regardless of who it is, when impermanence strikes, stay calm. There is no need to cry. Crying won't help. Furthermore, as a practitioner, there is no need to receive condolences. Ordinary people might need these social formalities. In our Tibetan areas, after someone dies, someone is usually assigned to record gifts, like $5 or $10. This happens in the Han region too, right? Every visitor and their gift must be carefully logged. Then later, when something happens in their family, you have to pull out the old ledger. If they gave you $15, you must return 15 or maybe 20. Conventionally, the rule is to return a slightly higher amount. If they gave 100, you give back 110 or 150. That is how the worldly way works. True practitioners aren't bound by this. They remain indifferent. In a sense, some might think practitioners are too cold or detached. I have been reflecting on this. While that's the nature of practice, Vajra brothers and sisters should still support one another. The reason many are losing touch with traditional culture is that, for example, in a class of 20 or so people, if one student's parent dies, the others seem indifferent. This is not good. At the very least, we should show human kindness. In our school, we require that when a teacher's birthday comes around, everyone chips in to buy a small gift as a token of appreciation. It represents the group's regard for them. Some students might find it difficult, but I told them it is a wonderful thing to do. In the future, for instance, in our Dharma Academy classes, the Khenpos shouldn't just say, "Someone died." Well, everyone dies eventually. Of course, reaching the level of the Sixth Patriarch is fine, but if we are too detached, then in the future Buddhists might not be as supportive as other religious groups. As Buddhists, if we are part of a community, for example, in a class, we should act as one. A while ago, I saw a teacher from another place whose student had tragically drowned while swimming. After the student's death, the teacher and the classmates immediately went to offer 100 or 1,000 butter lamps. The students didn't have much money, but they pooled their single dollars to make the offering. During those 7 days, each made a vow to chant certain mantras. I hope many of us will do the same. Even though nothing special was done when the Sixth Patriarch passed, I am not saying this to contradict him. In reality, if we practitioners are too indifferent, it might not be a good thing. People usually experience their hardest times when facing loss. While we talk a lot about practice, the Sixth Patriarch and his disciples were fine with his passing. But for us, if my parents were to die, knowing that many people care would be very heartening. In moments of great suffering, having people nearby to help is a source of great comfort. Therefore, if we haven't attained the Sixth Patriarch's level, we should be a bit more compassionate. Of course, acting like worldly people, weeping, shouting, or wearing special clothes is unnecessary. I think in that documentary there is a scene from when the Sixth Patriarch was young and his father died. The young boy said to his mother, "Mother, please don't cry." He said this to his mother even as a child. I believe that happened. You can look for it later. The Sixth Patriarch said, "Do not wear such clothes." There are various traditions across the different regions. When parents die, children express grief through what they wear and so on. But as monastics and practitioners, these things are not needed. However, in Tibetan Buddhism, when a monastery abbot or a great master passes, the golden roofs of the main hall are covered in black cloth for 49 days. This is a sign of mourning and remembrance, marking the misfortune. There is such a tradition, but there's no special mourning attire. Perhaps there isn't any in the Han region either. He says here, "If you wear worldly mourning clothes, you are not my disciple, nor is it the right Dharma." Buddhism does not teach this. When the Buddha passed away, he did not ask Ananda to wrap himself in black cloth, nor was there a need to patch red onto the black cloth. All of that is unnecessary. Only recognize your original mind and see your own nature, which is neither moving nor still, neither arising nor ceasing, neither coming nor going, neither right nor wrong, neither abiding nor departing. If you see the true nature of your own mind, within that state of mind nature, it is neither moving nor still, neither arising nor ceasing, neither coming nor going, neither right nor wrong, neither abiding nor departing. All conceptual elaborations and extremes are transcended. I fear your minds are deluded and you will not understand my meaning, so I exhort you once more that you may see your nature. I worry that your minds have been stained and confused by afflictions, and that you will fail to grasp my true intent. Thus I have repeatedly instructed you on the methods for pointing directly to the mind nature. The goal is for you to truly see the nature of your mind. The Sixth Patriarch spoke these words at the very end. After my passing, if you practice according to this, it will be as if I was still alive. If you go against my teaching, then even if I were in the world, it would be of no benefit. After my passing, if you practice according to the many supreme instructions found throughout the Platform Sutra, then even though my physical body has departed, my wisdom will always be with you, never separate, always present. That is a beautiful way to put it. My guru passed away 10 years ago, but his wisdom remains through his protection, in my dreams and in my waking life. If you act correctly according to the teachings, the guru is by your side. Some say, "My guru is not with me, he has gone somewhere else, and I am very sad and pained." But if your mind merges with the teachings the guru spoke, then whether the guru is alive or dead, he is one with you. However, if you completely contradict the guru's teachings, doing the opposite of whatever he instructed, then even if you eat and sleep beside the guru all day long, being together physically has absolutely no meaning. This has been true since ancient times, even when the Buddha was alive. Why do we still benefit so much from the Buddha's teachings today? Why do Mipam Rinpoche and Longchenpa, who attained parinirvana so long ago, still help us? The Sixth Patriarch left this world many years ago too. If we can manage to live by the Sixth Patriarch's teachings, the essence of his doctrine, then it is no different from seeing him in person. As I mentioned when I taught the Treasury of Pith instructions, even if Longchenpa were to come to this world, he could do no more. He would still liberate us through language. He wouldn't act like a Pratyeka Buddha, making flames shoot from his upper body and water flow from his lower body, displaying all kinds of miraculous transformations. What is so funny? Water from the lower body is nothing special. That kind of miracle is not the point. The most important thing is that you have memorized these instructions. In the process of relying on a guru, remembering his teachings is what holds the most value. Listening to and seeking the Dharma is incredibly important. Once you have these teachings, no matter where you are inseparable from the guru. In unmoving stillness, one does not practice good. In free and easy openness, one does not create evil. In deep stillness, one cuts off seeing and hearing. In vastness, the mind is unattached. These terms steadfastly, vigorously, in stillness, and in vastness are exactly like the terms we use in great perfection, such as lucidity, clarity, and translucency. They are adverbs used to describe a certain state of realization. Steadfastly refers to being unshakable. In this unshakable state, there is no conscious practice of virtuous deeds. Vigorously implies being at ease or non-action. In the state of spontaneous non-action, there is no negative karma to be created. Essentially, it means not being caught in the duality of creating good or evil. In stillness refers to a state of quietude and equanimity. In this state, all mundane sensory perceptions and intellectual knowledge are severed. In vastness describes a smooth and open expanse. The mind is free from any attachment or hindrance. There is no clinging at all. This means a state beyond good and evil, beyond attachment and beyond sensory appearances. When the Sixth Patriarch left this world, he was in such an exalted state of realization, a state completely free of good, evil, and attachment. If we haven't reached that level, we might leave this world while focused on virtuous deeds, or perhaps by visualizing a seed syllable. Regarding the transference of consciousness, there is the instantaneous transference. In words of my perfect teacher, it describes transference into the three kayas for superior practitioners, and a fourth type. There are 4 methods of transference in total. What is described here is the highest, a state beyond good and evil, returning to the original ground in an instant. After the master spoke this verse, he sat upright until the 3rd watch of the night. Suddenly he said to his disciples, "I am going now," and quietly passed away. At that time, a wondrous fragrance filled the room, and a white rainbow touched the earth. The trees turned white, and birds and beasts cried out in grief. After speaking, the master sat in meditation until the 3rd watch. As we've mentioned, the 3rd watch is roughly between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. Each watch lasts 2 hours. In the middle of the night, he suddenly called to his disciples, "I am going now." After saying this, he peacefully passed away. At that moment, a sublime fragrance filled the entire room. A white light stretched from the sky to the earth in the middle of the night. All the trees turned white. This could have 2 meanings. One is that they became dull and lifeless. Usually, when a master passes, the plants droop and lose their luster. It's a sign of nature mourning for him. But here, it likely means everything became pale under the reflection of that white light. At that time, the birds and the beasts let out wails of sorrow. The whole world, including animals, expressed their pain. At that moment, the Sixth Patriarch had entered Parinirvana. In the 11th month, officials from Guang, Shao, and Xin, together with the master's disciples, monks, and laypeople, vied to receive the master's true body, unable to decide where it should go. He passed away in the 8th month, and by the 11th month, officials and leaders from Guang, Shao, Shaozhou, and Xinzhou, along with disciples, laypeople, and monastics, all came forward to claim the Sixth Patriarch's incorruptible body. They simply could not reach a decision. Those from Xinzhou said, "We must have the master's body here." The people from Guangzhou said the same. They all insisted, "We want the Sixth Patriarch's body." They began to dispute. At that point, they offered incense and prayed, "Where the smoke points, that shall be the master's home." They agreed to decide through a method like divination, by burning incense. Whichever way the smoke blew, that would be where the master's body remained. Then the smoke from the incense pointed directly toward Shaoqi. This was actually a risky move. If it had wavered back and forth, the arguing would have started all over again, but it pointed straight towards Shaoqi. On the 13th day of the 11th month, the shrine and the transmitted robe and bowl were returned. On the 13th day of the 11th month, the master's remains inside a shrine-like vessel, along with his robe and bowl, were all taken to Shaoyage, just as the incense smoke had indicated. On the 25th day of the 7th month of the following year, the body was removed from the shrine. His disciple Fongbian applied fragrant clay to it. On the 25th day of the 7th month, the master's remains were taken out of the shrine. What they call a divine shrine is what we usually call a Buddha shrine. They removed the body from there. There was a disciple named Fangbian, who was also a Chan master. He used incense powder mixed into a paste to re-preserve the Sixth Patriarch's body. Nowadays, craftsmanship is advanced, and many incorruptible bodies are preserved using special techniques. They can be treated with specific materials. Back then, they didn't have that, yet the body remained whole and incorrupt. So, after applying the paste to the body, it was laid to rest. Recalling the prophecy about someone taking the head, the disciples first used iron plates and lacquered cloth to secure and protect the master's neck, before placing him in the pagoda. At that time, the disciples remembered the prophecy that 5 or 6 years later, someone would try to take his head. To prevent this, they used iron sheets and lacquered cloth to reinforce the neck area of the Sixth Patriarch's body, because they were afraid it might be severed. Later, when the attempt was made, the blade made a clanging sound. Since it was reinforced with iron plates, the head couldn't be cut off, so they did this to protect his neck. Then he was placed inside the pagoda. At that time it was a memorial pagoda. Today he is kept in the temple, but originally he was in the memorial pagoda. Suddenly, a white light appeared within the pagoda, shooting straight up to the sky, and did not disperse for 3 days. After he was placed in the stupa, a white light suddenly manifested, shooting up into the heavens. It didn't fade for 3 days. The light remained visible all that time. Shaozhou reported this to the emperor, and a decree was issued to erect a tablet recording the master's life and conduct. Later, the officials of Shaozhou reported the circumstances of the master's passing to the imperial court. It was likely during the reign of Emperor Xuanzong. The master lived through several emperors: Taizong, Gaozong, Wu Zetian, Ruizong, and Xuanzong. Over his 76 years, many emperors came and went. When the emperor heard the news, the leaders of Shaozhou received the imperial command to erect a stone tablet commemorating the Sixth Patriarch's exemplary conduct and realization. The master was 76 years old. At 24 he received the robe. At 39 his head was shaved. He taught the Dharma for the benefit of beings for 37 years. A summary of his life was recorded afterward. Usually when a master passes away, his life story is recounted like this. Even today, for many famous people, it often happens that they aren't fully recognized while alive. They only become famous after they leave the world. People then begin to discover their works and contributions. This was true for Mipham Rinpoche and Patra Rinpoche and many other famous figures in Tibet. During their lives, not only were they not famous, but some were even marginalized. Even Longchenpa was once expelled from his monastery. It says the Sixth Patriarch was 76 years of age. He stayed in this world for 76 years. At 24, he received the Dharma robe and the lineage from the Fifth Patriarch, the teachings of the Great Perfection. He only formally shaved his head at 39. During those 15 intervening years, he practiced in hiding among hunters as a layman. He began teaching the Dharma in earnest after he was ordained at 39. He taught for 37 years. While we cannot compare ourselves to the Sixth Patriarch, Dharma teachers should reflect on this. Some teach for only 2 or 3 years before saying, "I'm old now, my health is failing, and I have no more inner strength. I should rest and train new teachers." New teachers are indeed full of energy, vigor, ideas, and vision. They have great dignity, blessings, wisdom, compassion, and power. But the Sixth Patriarch didn't say he needed to be replaced quickly during those 37 years. Think about that. Those who received his intent and became his successors numbered 43. There were 43 direct heirs to his lineage. Those registered as the true successors and great masters were 43. As for those who awakened to the way and transcended the mundane, they were beyond count. Those who truly awakened and entered the stage of the noble ones were countless. In many places there were numerous people with varying degrees of realization. Since he taught the Dharma for 37 years, there must have been a great many people who achieved various levels of enlightenment. The robe transmitted by Bodhidharma, the monk's robe and bowl bestowed by Emperor Zhongzong, the master's true image sculpted by Fangbian, and his ritual implements were entrusted to the guardian of the pagoda for safekeeping. These items, the robe, the bowl, and the image of the master made by Fangbian, as well as his personal effects, such as his prayer beads and staff, are all significant. While the master's physical body is precious, the tools and items he used frequently are also deeply meaningful. In the memorial hall of our late guru, Kabje Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, we have tried to preserve his clothes, shoes, bookcases, and prayer beads. These things hold immense value. All these ritual implements were handed over to those in charge of the memorial pagoda, to forever safeguard the Baolin monastery. They serve to stabilize and protect the Baolin monastery. Fahai compiled the Sixth Patriarch's teachings into the Platform Sutra. As mentioned earlier, he followed the master's wishes. The Platform Sutra was circulated to manifest the core tenets, making known the core philosophy of the Sixth Patriarch and the Chan school. To cause the three jewels to flourish and universally benefit all beings, through the Platform Sutra and the philosophy of Chan, the right Dharma is spread to benefit countless beings. We should all make this vow. What is our sole responsibility in the future? It is exactly what was said at the end of the Platform Sutra, to cause the three jewels to flourish and universally benefit all beings. Universally benefit refers to helping all sentient beings without exception. This is the final sentence of the Platform Sutra. While maintaining our own principles, we should all vow to spread the right Dharma and benefit all beings. In a moment, after we chant the King of Aspiration prayers, we will also recite Kyabje Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche's essential aspiration prayer. With this, our teaching on the Platform Sutra is complete. I am especially glad that we haven't missed a single session from start to finish. 40 sessions are not easy to complete. 360 days are a long time. I am very grateful to all of you for sticking with me. If I were teaching to an empty room without your presence, I might have stopped halfway through. Personally, I have immense faith in the teachings of the Platform Sutra. I have gone through it very carefully from beginning to end. I don't know what you have gained from this, but I hope it has been meaningful. Even if you feel you've gained nothing, I'm sure it hasn't caused any harm. Let us dedicate our collective merit to the flourishing of the Dharma and the benefit of all beings. Thank you.
Sonam dai tancha zuba ne thona ne be dana tanshe jirga na jira long chuba shubum zolen ro a